Good morning. This is Ruth K. Brown Presents, and this morning we are talking to Claire Schwennesen, a 14-year-old freshman from Whitmore Lake High School in Whitmore Lake, Michigan. We are speaking together in Virginia's lovely Shenandoah Valley. Welcome, Claire.
Good morning.
While Claire is a great hiker and outdoors fan, today we are talking about her latest theatrical endeavor, which is playing Puck in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream at Whitmore Lake High School. First thing I wanted to talk to you about, Claire, was this selection, because to do Shakespeare is not something that is immediately recognizable or immediately acceptable to high school students. You have the concept of the English accent, you have the concept of the iambic pentameter and the verse that it's written in, and the concept that it uses currently obsolete language and vocabulary, so picking out the meaning of what you're saying can actually be more difficult than anything else. So the first question I wanted to ask was, how did you and the drama club at Whitmore Lake make the decision that you were going to do Midsummer?
So every year after we finish our plays and musicals for that year, because it's based on the school year, we get around, everybody who was in the drama club was welcome on stage, backstage, and we bat around ideas of what we want to do. So we had just finished Beauty and the Beast as our musical, and we were batting around ideas, and they came across Grease for the musical, and there were some other ideas for the play. I don't remember what they were off the top of my head. And I believe it was our director, Miss Spila, who originally brought up doing A Midsummer's Night's Dream. It was something that she'd always wanted to do. And the original idea was to get a copy of the script in the original Shakespearean and then translate it to modern English ourselves over the summer. But we ran out of time, and people kind of decided that they would rather just do the original Shakespearean version.
In the verse?
In the verse, and we would have a longer rehearsal period than what they would normally do for plays to kind of get ready. So the beginning part was just about the verse and not blocking and stuff.
Okay. Well, all right, so the decision's made and you're going to do Midsummer Night's Dream. As a freshman, this is normally, I believe you have told me, this is basically a senior-based play. So it's something where the upperclassmen of the high school are more likely to get cast in this particular production. How was it unusual for you to be cast while still a freshman?
I don't think so, because we have a very small school and we had a very small drama club. I don't think that grade had much to do with it. When in auditions we were given certain bits of various characters' lines in the Shakespearean iambic pentameter, and we just had to read them. We didn't have to have them memorized. We had our sheet with all of them on it, and so I just went up there and I said it. I didn't know the context of it, so I had to modify how I did it exactly before the actual performance of the play. But I just tried to be really expressive about it, and I think that's why they cast me as Puck, even though a lot of people read the bit of the Puck's lines.
I see. Did you do any preparation? Were you at all familiar with the play, or did you familiarize yourself with the play prior to auditions, or did you go into the auditions, as we say, cold, to do a cold reading of those pieces of script that you just said?
So we were given the pieces of script before the auditions, like a week or so, and I didn't really go to study them, or I didn't go to study the play. I studied the lines because I didn't know that we didn't have to have them memorized. So I already had the whole thing. It wasn't that long. It was like 12 lines maybe memorized of this bit of poem. So I had already had that memorized, and I already knew how I wanted to say it. I didn't know much about the play at that time other than what people had told me when I'd asked them, or told them, hey, we're doing A Midsummer's Night's Dream, and they'd say, hey, there's so-and-so about the plot.
Okay. All right, so you were happy with what you did as far as audition, and I assume that you were pleased to be cast in this role.
Oh, of course. I got to be a mischievous fairy character. I've never done Actually, the only characters I've played before were human, so I thought this would be a really fun experience to be able to be something that's a fairy that just gets to, like, run around the stage, and I was barefoot too, which was great. I love going barefoot.
A barefoot non-human. Very good. Well, coming back to reality then, so you did your audition, you were cast. Now you have to start the process of rehearsal. And I'm wondering, these people, this Miss Spilak that you mentioned, who was your drama coach, if you will.
Yes, our director.
Were there any other people who formed the cadre of adult help that you all had as it related to your rehearsal process?
Yeah, so Miss Kobach, she's a teacher at our school. She always helps out with backstage, so they were building the sets and stuff. Miss Zilke did our costumes, which I had so many people comment on how great my costume was. And Miss Klump came in. She was our director's former English teacher and one of the people in our play's grandmother. So she came in and helped us with the actual Shakespearean verse, like getting its meaning from it and stuff like that.
Okay. All right, very good. You said that the rehearsal process was longer than it usually is. How long is it usually, and how long was it for Midsummer?
It's normally about 3 months, so we would start the play just after winter break, and it'd be sometime in April or March in the spring. And this time we started almost as soon as Grease started rehearsing, and that was our winter musical. So we had an extra 2 or 3 months to do it before we even started blocking.
Oh my, okay. Well, you had all of that time. That's rehearsal. That's after school time that you had to come in. You still had to try and figure out how to get your homework done and all the rest of the things, because I remember from my high school experiences, it was getting back and forth to school and getting the lines memorized at the same time you're trying to do all your schoolwork. Was that any kind of a problem for you?
No, the only thing, I'm pretty good at doing my homework and getting it good and done, and I didn't really run into a problem of having to stay up really late doing homework with drama.
Good. Of this whole process, of the fact of the various pieces of the performance as they come together. So you've already mentioned about blocking, and you've already mentioned about working on the meaning of the verse. And then you start adding costuming, and you start adding lights, and then you start adding your set pieces and your props that you have to hold and other things. What was your favorite part of that process?
Personally, I really like blocking. Can't speak for anyone else, but that's my favorite.
I see. And what do you like about it?
Well, it's just that you get to go around stage and you have to figure out how you want to do it. And there's actually a sword fighting part that was interesting to watch. I got to sit on stage with Oberon was there, the person who played Oberon. And we were just watching the four human main characters like squabble, and there was sword fighting involved. That was interesting to watch. I didn't actually sword fight with anybody, but that would have been cool.
It would have been. Would have been. Okay, speaking of swords then and other props, I understand that you had an interesting prop that was provided to you as a gift.
Yes, so I had a panpipe. It wasn't a particularly large panpipe. It had 7 tubes, I guess. And so it played 7 notes, and my papa bought it for me so I could play panpipes as part of Puck. And it was great. It matched my costume. It had a nice strap to it so I could run around and it didn't fall off, didn't break. And I got to actually play panpipes as part of being Puck, which was a lot of fun.
Your director did not have an issue with that?
No, she didn't, which I really liked, because if you're playing a mischievous fairy character, panpipes. It's just like, why not?
Part of what you do, huh?
Yeah, a part of what you do.
Okay, well, now we've talked about your needing to get to and from school and all of the part of the process, and the fact that this rehearsal schedule was even longer than it is historically. What kind of family support did you get while you were doing the production?
So my mom always helped me practice lines, and a couple of times she made my brother practice lines with me.
That must have been interesting.
It was interesting because Matt had a lot of questions of like, what does this mean? What just happened there? So that was fun. I got to explain to him what was going on in the Shakespearean lines. And of course, they're always driving me to and from drama practice. They like to make jokes about sometimes they have to go to the school like 4 or 5 times in a day between marching band and drama and actually going to school.
So your family was very supportive of what you were doing.
I couldn't have done it without them.
I see. Well, that's great. Well, now as a final little thing to discuss, you've had all this rehearsal, you had performances. How many performances were there?
There were 3. Most of the time we do only 3 performances. It was Friday, Saturday, and then a earlier one Sunday.
Sunday matinee, as they say.
Yes.
Okay, so 3 performances. Were the audiences receptive to the idea?
Yes, there's a lot of... In A Midsummer's Night's Dream, there's this one part where there is a play inside a play, and one of the characters in the play inside the play was a male character had to play a female character in the play. And that, we were having, one of the times it was out of order, so they had to fix that, and they recovered really well from that. But I got a lot of laughs. It was the play inside the play with a male person playing a female character in like a dress. And a wig and a very bad... I mean, it was clearly a bad wig. It was supposed to be a bad wig.
Oh, very good. Okay. Well, what about the character? As I'm familiar with Midsummer, I believe there's a character that turns into an ass.
Yes. So, Bottom the Weaver, I get to turn into a donkey at one point because Titania, the fairy queen, has to fall in love with a donkey because it's a mess. So Oberon the Fairy King, here, I'll just read, The king doth keep his revels here tonight. Take care the queen come not within his sight, for Oberon is passing fell and wrath, because the queen as her attendant hath a lovely boy stolen from an Indian king. She never had so sweet a changeling, but jealous Oberon would have the child, knight of his train to trace the forest wild. But she perforce withholds the lovely boy, crowns him with flowers, makes him all her joy. And now they never meet in grove nor green, by fountain clear nor spangled starlight sheen. But they do square that all their elves, for fear, creep into acorn cups and hide them there.
I see. Thank you very much for that. That's a lovely way to end this interview. I thank you very much. Oh, well, I wanted to ask you, do you have any particular takeaways from this experience, other than, of course, remembering the lines for a long time? It's something that just happens to us, and there'll always be those few lines that you'll remember forever, even as the others do fade, which unfortunately they will. But you'll have the 1 or 2 or maybe 5 that you will remember all the time and perhaps bring back into your modern life. But what other takeaways did you have from this experience?
It was a lot of fun. I got to, as I mentioned before, go around the stage barefoot, which I love going barefoot. I got the last bow, which was really cool for me as a freshman. I had done other middle school plays before, but I was never cast as like a main character who would get the last bow. And working with a lot of people, obviously you heard me, I had a little bit of a British accent, so we had to work on that, and that was fun. Especially, it was funny when somebody would try to do it with a British accent. There's this one person in our play, he played Oberon, that was from a really Germanic family, so he couldn't get the accent. It was funny.
All right. What was I going to say? I was just thinking of something else.